Morning, everybody, and happy Wednesday today. Today we're going to be starting by talking about turning fractions into decimals. Let's get started. So on the top here, you're going to notice we have 8 different fractions, and what we're really looking for here is ideally we would have, such as in this case, a number in the denominator that's either a 10, 100, or 1,000. Now, if that's the case, such as this one just says 83 thousandths, we know that it's written the same way, the same name as a decimal and as a fraction. 83 thousandths is the same as 83 thousandths here as a decimal. Now, anytime we don't have that, we want that. So if we start at the top, when you're looking at fifths, for instance, we're thinking what number can we multiply that 5 by to get it to either a 10, a 100, or a 1,000. So we know that we can get a 5 changed to a 10 by multiplying by 2, and we would do the same thing to the top, which is going to give me 6/10, which looks like this. Now, ideally, that's going to happen. There'll be some denominators where we can't change into a 10, so we'll have to change into a 100 or a 1,000. For example, when we look at 5/8, we learned in class that we can change 5/8 into thousandths by multiplying by 125, because an eighth is a half of a fourth. The ones that I really want you to focus on, though, today are this one, this one, this one, and this one. Now, to start off, the hint I'm going to give you on these two is first, 6/12 is the same as something else. Think about what is 6/12 the same as, and then when you're looking at 2/8, also think about what is the same as 2/8. We can simplify those fractions so that they're easier to work with. So I would give you the hint of simplifying those fractions. Now, when it comes to 1/9 and 5/6 over here, remember we had that strategy where we said if the denominator will not change into a 10, 100, or 1,000, we have to divide. Now remember this line in the center here literally means division. So that literally means 1 divided by 9, down a decimal and a 0 there. And I'm just asking then, if I divided this out, how many groups of 9 are in 10? 1. Just give me a 9. Subtract, I get a 1. Bring down another 1. How many groups of 9 are in 10? 1. And that's going to be a repeating 1 decimal there. So it's going to look like this. And those ones are going to repeat. So we put that line over the top. So you're trying to make all of these numbers into decimals by using those strategies. Try one of those strategies. Hopefully it'll work for you. All right. Moving down. The next section says, put the numbers below in order from least to greatest. Now, notice I didn't give you any means to do that here, so I didn't give you a number line. I'm going to make a number line. Just because I don't give you a number line doesn't mean you can't use one. And the first thing I notice about all of these numbers is that none of them are more than a whole. So my number line can easily go from 0 to a whole. Now, when you're thinking about these numbers, think of them one at a time and think about where they would fit. I'm going to first put some benchmarks on my number line. I'm going to put 4, I'm going to put 3/4, and so on. Now, I'm just starting by looking at numbers that I can kind of figure out where they go. The first one I'm thinking is 7/12. Now, if I look at the denominator 12, I know it takes 12 pieces to make a whole. So I know that 6/12 would be the same as a half, which is here. So I know that 7/12 must be 1/12 bigger than a half. So I know that it's close to a half, but it's 1/12 bigger, which means 7/12 is going to go about here on my number line. We can use those types of strategies. Now, if I'm looking around, the next one I might notice is this one, 432 thousandths. Now, I know that 500 thousandths would be half. 432 thousandths then would be smaller than half. Now, I have to also decide how does it compare to a fourth? Well, remember we know 1/4 is the same as 25 hundredths. If I added an extra 0 there, that would be 250 thousandths would be the same thing. So 432 thousandths is bigger than that, and it's actually a little closer to a half than it is to a fourth there. So we'll put it there on the number line. Using those strategies, we should be able to put these numbers on our number line. Now, a couple that I really want you to focus on, write them in a different color here. 4/16 and 5/8. Now, I'll give you a hint on one of those. 4/16 you could easily simplify, and it's going to become a fraction that you're very familiar with. 5/8, my suggestion would be to change that one into a decimal, perhaps, to figure out exactly where it's going to fit on our number line, or possibly using common denominators. So I would say one of those two strategies will work. Use this number line, see if you can put all those numbers on that number line. All right, moving on to the last question. Make a chart here. So we have our three sections. We have our info, we have our question, we have our strategy. So Braden, Ian, and Jack recently entered the National Bacon Eating Contest of Bacon Eaters, a small contest put together by the Food Eatery. It was Braden's idea, because bacon is his favorite food of all time. As a team, the boys ate 500 pounds of bacon. The chart below shows how much each boy ate. Ian ate 3/4 of a pound. I'm not going to write that down there because it's right there. Braden ate 5 1/3 pounds, and we don't know how much Jack ate. But we know, and I'm going to write this down here, that there were 500 pounds in total. So I know that Ian ate 3/4 of a pound, Braden ate 5 1/3, and in total, they all ate 500 together. So the question is, how many pounds did Jack eat? How many pounds did Jack eat? He's kind of the missing link here, because we know 2 out of the 3, and we know altogether they ate 500, but we don't know Jack by himself. Now, this is one of those missing piece strategies. So all we're really thinking here is, if we could find a total of Braden and Ian, and we could find the difference of that in the total, then we have Jack's. So the first thing I'm thinking is, let's add 3/4 of a pound plus 5 1/3. Now, when you're doing that, make sure you're thinking about finding your common denominators. Now, when we get a total here, we're basically just going to take that total, whatever this is, let's call it X, and we're going to subtract that number from 500 to get ourselves a total for Jack's amount here. And that's basically what we're going to do. Now, remember that when you're subtracting from a whole number, because we're subtracting a whole number and a fraction from a whole number, we're going to have to regroup. So remember, you can take away a whole, 499, and give me back a whole, whether that's 12/12 or 4/4 or 3/3. Give me back a whole for that one that I took there. All right. Hopefully that helped, and I'll see you guys in class later.